News Bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is Thursday, 21st December 2023. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is News 2 a.m. on News Power Digital. The Board of Massey Holdings Limited has sent its Executive Vice President of Business Integrity, Angelique Potter, on administrative leave until January 12, 2024. The reason she's being sent on leave is because of her conduct at the group's 100th annual general meeting, which has been described by the company as appalling. Parson Potter, who is the group's general counsel at Massey and a shareholder of the company, told the meeting she felt obliged to speak up about significant governance and fiduciary concerns, as in a detailed 13-page document including audio evidence, which had previously been shared with Massey CEO and President Jerry Warner. In a statement she read out at the annual general meeting, Pastor Potter says, quote, among other matters, one alarming issue is the so-called Executive Leadership Program, Delphi, which has been present in our organization for over a decade. The program involves frequent travel to Fort Myers, Florida, and weekly commitments for over a year at a cost per participant of tens of thousands of US dollars, for which there were 11 participants last year alone. She also alleged their bizarre rituals include they can train Massey employees to communicate with the dead, and attendees can self-heal with white light energy. On Tuesday, the Board of Massey issued a press statement in which it said it was appalled at Parson Potter's conduct at the AGM. The statement described her comments as patently untrue and scandalous, and described her conduct as appalling. The board also said it takes the allegations seriously and had initiated an independent process to look into each of Parson Potter's allegations. Ransomware group Alf V Black Cat says it's hacked and stolen 500 gigabytes of data from systems warehouse shopping giant PriceSmart. The company has been listed as a victim of Alpha V Black Cat's dark web blog again. It was first listed on November 12th. An enterprise risk and security consultant confirmed yesterday that Alf V Black Cat stated on its dark web blog it plans to start attacking pretty much everyone and everything after it was seized by international law enforcement on Tuesday between 7 and 9 a.m. The group said it took back control of its blog around noon that day. The group has put out a release stating they're very upset with law enforcement, FBI law enforcement agencies, and they're going to start attacking pretty much everything and everyone. A Roman Catholic priest is remaining confident the church can make a positive impact in communities across Trinidad and Tobago. Father Ian Taylor, who is based in New Grant, said the culture of lawlessness must be addressed. He cited some of the irresponsible behaviors displayed during the carnival period and even continues at other times of the year. He says bringing about meaningful change has to come from groundwork being done in communities by helping people to stay focused. Quaker Oats granola bars and Wanabana applesauce pouches are being recalled due to contamination. The recall issued by Quaker Oats due to salmonella contamination of more than 2 dozen cereal bars and granola bars. The Ministry of Health says salmonella is a dangerous bacterium which can lead to severe illness when it enters the bloodstream. The Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. has also issued a recall for applesauce pouches produced by manufacturer Wanabana LLC as a result of elevated lead levels. In news of the region, Prime Minister Andrew Holness in Jamaica is encouraging Jamaicans to assist in further strengthening Jamaica's economy through hard work. Speaking during this week's groundbreaking ceremony for the Kingston 2 apartments development in Bournemouth Gardens, Kingston, Mr. Holness said Jamaica's growth is fueled by individuals with incomes and market consumption. He, however, said this cannot happen without diligent dedication to hard work by persons in communities. International news now, some of the Americans who were freed by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's government in a U.S. prisoner swap have landed at a U.S. military base in San Antonio, Texas. The individuals were freed on Wednesday in exchange for the U.S. release of ally Maduro, Colombian businessman Alex Saab, who was granted clemency by U.S. President Joe Biden and returned to Venezuela on Wednesday. Maduro also agreed to release at least 20 opposition-linked prisoners from prison. As part of the deal, all 6 Americans classified by the U.S. as wrongfully detained in Venezuela were released, along with 4 other Americans. Reuters news witnesses reported 6 detainees, including one on a stretcher, got off a plane at a joint base in San Antonio, Texas. A Rwandan doctor was sentenced by a Paris court on Wednesday to 24 years in prison for his role in the 1994 genocide in his home country. After a deliberation lasting nearly 15 hours, Sothine Monayema, 68, was found guilty of charges of genocide, crimes against humanity, and participation in a conspiracy to prepare those crimes. He has denied any wrongdoing, and his lawyers said he would appeal the decision. At the time, he was 38 years old and a gynecologist in Tumbo in Rwanda's Southern University District of Butere. And finally, a new analysis of auto accidents and incidents used insurance data to determine which car brands had the worst drivers and found that Tesla drivers had the highest accident rates. The analysis used Quote Wizard by lending Tree insurance quote data and broke down which auto brands had drivers who were responsible for more accidents, DUIs, and other vehicular incidents. It found Tesla drivers had the highest accident rate with 23.54 accidents per 1,000 drivers. The scan carried out between November 14th, 2022 and November 14th, 2023. The other auto brands whose drivers had more than 20 accidents per 1,000 drivers were Ram, 22.76, Subaru, 20.9. There were just 3 brands with fewer than 10 accidents per 1,000 drivers, including Pontiac, Mercury, and Saturn. The best drivers, according to the report, were driving Mercury and had just 15.82 incidents per 1,000 drivers. Interesting enough, BMW drivers were found to have the highest DUI rate with 3.13 per 1,000 drivers. The next closest was Ram, with nearly half that amount at 1.72 DUIs per 1,000 drivers. So, good morning to Elon Musk. That's news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We have major news coming your way at 7 a.m.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
On this 21st day of December, 4 days to Christmas. We can feel it now. Certainly can. All right. So thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Phil Caston, you just heard from Paul Richards. Wendell Stephen is fixing his glasses. Richard Raghubar Singh is probably coming out of that little small room at this time. Ruben is washing his car. Shane is in Boom 94 doing his thing. My name is Steve Khan. All right, let's get straight into the WTs. You know it's going to be a quick one when it comes to the T's. I have nothing to tell about. Just by Santa Rosa, those lights there, little bit of build-up. But that's it. Leaving Kelly Village, heading through Piarco, a little build-up there as well. That's it. Nothing else. All right? Nothing else. 23 degrees at Piarco International Airport, and it is 26 degrees at Crown Point in Tobago. Your weather forecast for Trinidad and Tobago today. Let's see if the Met Office has updated it. They have. So here we go. Sunny and hazy conditions will be interrupted by partly cloudy intervals with a few light to moderate showers. There is a 20%, which is low, chance of isolated heavy showers, thunderstorms favoring the afternoon. Hazardous seas alert number 1, yellow level, excuse me, is in effect. A mild to moderate concentration of Sahara dust is present in our atmosphere. Maximum forecast temperature for both islands would be 32 degrees. Check in some temps across our listenership. Let's see what it's like. Toronto, zilch, nada, 0 degrees and cloudy. Heading to Miami, it's 20 degrees. Orlando, 14. New York, you're at 1 degree. Let's see. Atlanta -1 and clear. London, you're sitting at 12 degrees. Tampa 13. Washington 0. Washington is at 0. All right. Let's see. Let's say hello to the folks out on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Let's see who sent us a hello. All right. DJ Ray out in Tampa. Good morning. Garcelia out in Baltimore, Maryland. Oliver Man Warren. Good morning. Ewart Rajpal. Boy Bedesi out in Debe. So let's see. Boy, you could bring me somebody barfy in that hut there. And I'm not a lover of the green shed. I like the one 2 doors down. You can bring some, no sweet, plenty shot of Benny and pepper. All right, just thought to let you know that, boy. Miss Ingrid out in Tucson, Arizona. Wayne B in Covington, Georgia. Marcia Rock out in Florida. Wendy and James. Rennie Mohammed. Pearl Cordis, good morning to you. Edwin Marshall, happy Thursday. Carol Guevara, Trinidad Margot, good morning to you. Brenda Isaac, Richard Duku, Marva Williams, Guy Small, Beefy Smith in Goodwood, Tobago, Anthony Tinter out in Brampton, Ontario. Boy, he says, okay, thanks, boy, my new best friend. DL, good morning to you. Have a good one. CJ New York, good morning to you. Let's see on WhatsApp. I know I had a few on WhatsApp. Let's see. I got Dan Rand saying, good morning, bro. Good morning, bro. I got Val. I got Michael across the pond in London. Good morning to you as well. I see that British Airways had a problem with their aircraft, so they didn't leave here yesterday. I'll check that out. But good morning to you, Wendell Stephen. Where's Paul Richards?
I don't know, but good morning.
There he is. Oh, that handsome face graces us every morning. Give me a smile there, Paul. Give me a smile. Come on, smile for the people. There you go. I don't know what that was, folks, but that's as much as you'll get from him.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning, listeners and viewers. I want to say this morning, though, a special good morning to CJ Charmaine from New York, who lost her mom yesterday, age 94 years old, after listening to after signing off for the last time on the Power Breakfast Show. Because Charmaine is an ardent fan, and so is her mom. You know, she passed yesterday morning, so condolences, Charmaine, to you and your family. All right, from us, all of us here at the Power Breakfast Show, and certainly from Zena and from Listra Park. I'm sure Listra would have called you personally, you know, but condolences.
Yeah, we had a death in the family yesterday as well. But let me say good morning to Paul first before I tell you.
Good morning, everyone. Season's greetings. I'm fighting with
you don't seem to be at your house this morning.
You all hearing me double? Are you?
No.
Well, then good. It's only here. Thank God.
You've been drinking again, haven't you?
This morning for some reason, and I can't get rid of one. And see what. Anyway, and we're also on Instagram Live this morning. Good morning to Charmaine and condolences to you and your family on the loss of your mom.
Yeah, my cousin lost.
It's a difficult time to lose your mom at any time. We see it at Christmas time. So.
Yeah, oh gosh, tell me about it. My cousin lost her fiance yesterday after they've been planning their wedding for next year. And he passed away yesterday. Young chap, but he had, which I have to dig up on, I don't know, autobrui syndrome, which damaged his liver and then his kidneys. And he was on the transplant list, but took an ill 2 weeks ago and passed yesterday. My cousin is in a mess. She's in Port St. Lucie, Florida. So when I go up, I always see them.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. So,
anyway, it seems to be a beautiful morning.
What's that?
I said it seems to be a beautiful morning in the east, certainly. I hope that it maintains that. Yeah, and for all you do not be fooled by all that no traffic that Steve spoke about. It's going to come very soon.
Oh, it's good by 10 o'clock. It's going to be traffic.
I'm not even sure if it's staying so long to come now. Huh? Oh,
let me tell you, I had to go to Christina Court just to pick up something. And it took me, I left here at 10:33, 40 minutes, 40, from K-Park to Christina Court. 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I was supposed to go there today, Maraval today, to pick up another something. And I said, I'm not doing that today. I went last night.
Yeah. You see that upper St. James, Maraval, Saddle Road, wrong Savannah kind of area? Still from the Long Circular Mall kind of area.
You know where's the problem too? Right in front of Scotiabank on by Ellerslie there. Like Wasser did some work. So there's a big plate over it and a massive pothole.
Oh, so everybody has to
And that's creating a problem. I don't know why Wasser just didn't deal with it one time. I don't know if they did that overnight, but this is from yesterday evening. To get that flow, you have to come to a complete stop. But then Port of Spain is a mess. There's,
Yep, all over. And it's going to be worse today. It's amazing. People are shopping. I'm seeing shopping bags. I'm seeing new bicycles because I operate from opposite a bicycle store. So a lot of people even take chances parking in front of my driveway to go run across to get the bicycles.
Yeah.
And boy, bicycles are selling. I'm sure Mike's Bikes also selling lots of bikes, and Gene Samuel. Bicycle is always the go-to toy for a youngster around this time of the year. Always, always, always.
Bikes not cheap at all, you know.
Lord knows how many bikes I bought before. Oh.
Pablo, why are you looking like you're tired and just
that developed your
you had a late flight or something?
That developed your passion for riding and the bikes.
It probably did, you know. I remember when I passed common entrance, I got a bicycle.
Hey, me too. I got a chopper.
I got a chopper. Mine was a chopper too. And a purple chopper. Oh, I love that bike. That bike went all over this place. I rode to Maracas Waterfalls on that bike. I rode to Mac Creek on that bicycle. Oh, I rode all over the place on that bicycle. You know? I'm a good rider, Paul.
You need to buy yourself an adult bicycle.
I do actually have an adult bicycle. I have one of those bicycles. I haven't ridden it for a while though. I got it from my
Have you given it a name? Maybe I'll help you ride it more.
Well, it's red, so I'm afraid to name it.
I have a Cannondale bike, which I should really sell because stay quiet.
You probably need to give it away.
I haven't used it in a long. Stay quiet, Paul. I haven't used it in a long time.
It's very obvious you haven't used it for a while.
I said stay quiet. I said stay quiet before I even want to say what I had to say. No, it was a nice bike. It's like 20-something years. I don't even know. It works well. But it's just parked up there.
Morning, Michael Phillips. You and your dad and your brothers.
Yeah. Morning, John. John Cato. I keep asking John Cato if he's related to Ruben Cato. Slick Money Grip. Good morning. CJ says, "Thank you, guys. Love you all." Can you feel?
And good morning to what's her name?
As if we would really know. Ray Ray.
No.
Ray Ray is in Trinidad, not in West Palm Beach.
Miss Pastor Potter.
Paris Hot Butter. Yeah.
Who got a little vacation?
Oh, they suspended her?
They sent her, they didn't say suspended, they sent her on administrative leave.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
That's the update. Until January 12th.
Okay.
I just think it was a power grab.
Yeah, it probably was.
You know, I was having this discussion with someone yesterday, and while I understand she's vice president integrity, something or the other, and she sent in a 13-page document which outlined her issues with the company in November, and took the opportunity during the AGM in full public view to raise the issues again with the executive directorship of the company, which I think is in poor taste, quite frankly, because at that level, you are duty bound to maintain the interest of the company. And anything that you say at that level in a public domain that can affect the credibility or viability of the company, you're going to be held accountable for it. You're going to be held accountable for it. And the company, as a result of her comments, has been the subject of derision, insults, memes, and all sorts of things.
Hmm.
Good morning,
Well, I'm
everybody.
getting messages from people
Yeah, good
that
morning,
you're
guys.
soft.
Good morning,
Yeah,
guys.
you're very late this
Morning, morning, Richard.
Yeah, good
Morning,
morning.
Rich, what's shaking?
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
I
Good morning
don't,
to
I
our
don't
listeners,
often have
wherever
bad
you are.
complaints of being soft, but
Yeah, well, this is somebody who's supposed to know
is
what
this
hard
better?
feels like.
I hope this is better. I raised the volume on my settings.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's.
You are getting a slight echo from you, but that's all right.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of one of the fees. I don't know where it came from, but alas.
Yeah, but I want to agree with you, Paul. I mean, I heard a bit of what you were saying. Not that I was waiting long, but but I want to agree with you at that level. Issues, whatever issues you may have, warranted or not, perceptions you may have, warranted or not, there is a framework within the executive management of any company where you articulate those issues.
Mm-hmm.
So articulating them in a public arena like that means that you had to have some sort of agenda for doing that, because you must have known that there would have been some sort of, at that level, you would know that there is going to be some sort of public, you're doing it in a public manner.
Response and backlash.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some sort of response. And so I don't see what way forward in a normal company that you, in terms of your future, that, because obviously there's going to be some disciplinary.
Richard, I'm sure you've sat at the board level and sat in on board meetings before. Would that be correct?
Yes.
And reported to a board before, as I have, as many people have.
Yeah.
And what is said in a board meeting, even things that are brought to the attention of the board for concern. A board environment is a safe environment. People discuss things in the interest of the company.
Yes.
And if I cannot trust what is discussed at that, not go public, you have a problem.
Yes. Haven't I told you guys many occasions, because I have sat at the legislative group and the general council of the PNM and the Central X, there are certain things I will never repeat on radio.
Yes,
I've said it for years. I
you can't. When then you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
how many times I would tell you, well, I know something, but I can't say anything at this point.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you have to have a level of discipline when it comes to especially when you're
operating at that level, things that may affect the viability of the company, because you have a legal responsibility to act in the interest of the company, unless, of course, something is patently wrong and illegal.
Right.
And then, as Richard said, there's even a process for that.
Yeah. But in an instance like that, too, you leave. It's like
no, I don't think you have to leave, but there's a process to reporting wrongdoing or issues that you think need to be brought to the fore.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I'm hearing you there. I'm extending that argument to what I heard in the Senate yesterday. I don't know if you were in the Senate yesterday when Randall Mitchell had to respond to Wade Mark. I mean, he was being ridiculous with the statements he was making. And Randall Mitchell was right. If you have a problem in Massey, don't shop there. But when you come into malign a company like that, you're using the Senate to malign a company and ridicule a company like that employing 13,000 people and doing such a service to our country. Why would you want to malign a company like that? You understand? He was being totally ridiculous yesterday. Well, all of them actually. I don't know. You said that Senator, no, Paul. You are a real belly, you know. You deserve more than a doctorate, you know, for sitting amongst David Naked, Anil Roberts, and Wade Mark alone. Them three alone.
I could say the same thing about you in City Corporation for 10 years.
That is true. That is true. Touche. Touche.
Good one, Paul.
Particularly at the end of your tenure. Particularly the end of your tenure.
Yeah.
And what came out?
It took a lot.
Boy.
It took a lot. It took a lot. But
and didn't come outside in an inappropriate way to discuss even things you were strongly opposed to that were discussed at council. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have some kind of discipline at the board level.
Yeah.
And I think Richard is right. Yeah, you had to have some agenda or some reasons for bringing it up in that forum. And if you thought that it would just be let slide and talking about healing with white light and talking to those kind of salacious comments, come on.
Yeah, you have to have an agenda and being so public about it because you must know there are going to be repercussions.
And then what other board is going to hire you at that level if you're willing to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning to Tesla drivers.
Interestingly enough, I met with a friend last night, well, a group of us who's visiting from the States, so he's down here. And I went on Arpita Avenue, and there's some interesting new lights on Arpita Avenue. I never saw them before.
I spoke about them, the solar lights.
Yeah, that are purple. I think they're purple. Yeah.
Yeah, they're purple.
Yeah, they're interesting. I hadn't seen them before.
No, I saw when they were actually putting them up, and I said, "Hey, what is this?" And it was clear that they were solar lights because of the the design of it now.
Yeah, they're interesting. They're
very nice.
Yeah, they're very attractive.
And I think when the bus terminus, the stops, the transit shelters are finished, the avenue is a joy. I think it looks beautiful. I've complimented Noel Garcia personally on it. And I hope that the people maintain it, and which is why I said the police.
Is it sorry for interrupting you, Wanda, but is it that they're almost finished, or there's still other things to happen?
I gather that they're doing the transit shelters now. They're finishing it with the transit shelters. They've done most of all the pavements. I think the 100% of the pavements are finished. All the plant pots are down. All the solar lights are down. So I believe it's now the transit shelters, and I don't know what else is to come. They haven't said. I haven't seen any evidence of it.
So let me ask you a question. All this work is being done under the auspices of the corporation as a St. James Improvement Group?
No, that's UDCOT. That's UDCOT.
Well, that's
the UDCOT project.
So why UDCOT can't do the same thing in downtown Port Spain and
I agree, and I hope that they do.
So if they could do that great job in St. James, which I have no problem with that, congratulations, commendations, and that.
Why can't we
not St. James? St. James still how it was.
Well, I repeat Avenue then.
Yeah. No, it looks really good.
Why not Independence Square or downtown Port of Spain?
I think they are going to look at Broadway and maybe a couple other areas. But I think they've done a fantastic job. Honestly, they've done a fantastic job. Yeah. And I hope that the TTPS, that's why I called on the TTPS to ensure that people can now go to the avenue safely and all this nonsense about fighting and shooting and bottle pelting need to stop. Police the place.
They can't police the police the place?
Well, they had to do.
Guess what I saw yesterday? Speaking of police, we had quite a long conversation.
No, not earlier.
Close enough to earlier. I decided to go to Price Mart in Central yesterday to avoid the rush. I was there at 9:15. There was a short line. I stood in the line at 2 minutes to 9. And guess who walked up to me?
They walked up to you.
Johnny Abraham.
Lincoln's twin brother.
Lincoln's? Oh, Senior Superintendent Alexander?
That's
without
right.
A mask?
No, he had on a mask.
He really wearing a mask all over?
He had on a mask. He had on a black mask.
Oh, dear.
Wait till stop bad talking, man.
Sorry?
Stop bad talking, man. Is that what he told you?
We don't bad talking.
No, we were talking about the courts incident and several other incidents related to police and police operations. He said he's going off, I think, next week.
End of the year.
Yeah. and he doesn't know what the situation will be when he returns.
7 years down the road, he don't know where it gonna be.
No, for
3 years. 3
it's
years
a
down
fait
the
accompli. But he
But
was
you know-
actually very upset about the courts incident, and also speaking about, I wish to comment on this about the fact that GPs are now out of the system, justices of the peace,
Out
after
of the
preliminary
system?
inquiries
What do you mean?
are now obsolete.
So
Would
does
that be
that
correct,
make
Richard?
JPs obsolete too?
Well, preliminary inquiries, since December 12th.
And he said the GP said there's no provision for them in the new dispensation.
Okay. Well, Richard will have to enlighten us on that. Is that accurate, Richard?
But I'm not so sure, I don't know the amendments that well. I mean, I just read them once.
It is an article in one of the newspapers this morning about it.
And it does abolish preliminary inquiries.
Yeah. So no need for GPs no more.
Yeah, from December 12th, that would have happened.
Okay.
So
good morning, Price Smart.
As we talk
Was it packed,
police.
Paul? 1 second. Was it packed, Paul, or no?
It wasn't packed at that time, no.
Okay. And just thinking enough, I went Price Smart yesterday, but I not so early. And when I went, it had a pretty good crowd. I met Zena was there with her significant other, not you, Paul.
What she had on?
And
she didn't wear that pom-pom trust again to try to get discounts, because she wore that pom-pom trust to try to get discounts.
She was calling out to me, so I was with it, and say, look, Zena over there. So I went up there and said, what you have for me? Nothing. That's what she said.
I reference Price Smart because apparently they've been hacked.
That's why I have here.
And 500 gigabytes of data stolen from their system, according to enterprise risk and security expert who said that Price Smart information is on the dark web again. Alf B Black Cat is a ransomware group that has indicated that it's upset because the FBI is closing down and shut down their website, and they regain control of their website, and now they're going to hack everybody. And according to this expert, it's in the Express this morning, Price Smart. I don't know if Price Smart will call it Price Smart International, but Price Smart information is on the dark web. So check your business.
Okay, I haven't been to Price Smart for this season. I attempted to go the other day and I went too early. And then when I pulled up, I see the gate closed. I saw a guy standing up there. I said, what time is here is open? Yeah, 9 o'clock. And this is just after 8. I said, well, hard luck for Price Smart. I ain't coming back here.
You ain't gonna be here where you buying things for.
No, well, I'd like to just get some juice and stuff for the house. Buy the cases now. Because normally if you're going to grocery, you won't pick up cases. You'll just pick up, individual bottles. So juice and stuff. My son, we drink a lot of juice and Lucozade and different things now. Water. Well, not water. I get water from Rumbox. But just buy the cases and have it here. But you're right, we won't be here. So
yeah,
we don't really need it. But as you raise the issue of police just now, Paul, I want to get this out of the way before. Did you see the response of the police service social welfare and former Commissioner Guy Griffith to the national security saying that they want to review the operations of the TTPS? I laugh. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. They cuss Dr. Rowley, they cuss Fitzgerald Hines when anything goes wrong with the TTPS. But the National Security Councils make a statement that they want to have a review, and they get cussed for that too. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I just get tired of this place sometimes, I get tired and weary of this place sometimes. So it's ASP Gideon Dixon jump out the whole self yesterday to issue a statement that they interfere with it, and it is the purview of the Commissioner of Police. Well, okay. So Dr. Rowley and Fitzgerald, Minister Fitzgerald Hines and the Cabinet and the National Security Council supposed to sit down and twiddle their thumbs while people being police officers abusing their authority, allegedly, and all kind of chaos taking place in this place. They're supposed to just say nothing. And if they say nothing, why the minister ain't saying nothing? Why the prime minister ain't saying nothing? It's tiring. And I was about to say I didn't get a message from Gary Griffith for a long while, and I got that yesterday. And it annoyed me. Because all of a sudden he and Gideon Dixon on the same page. It's like if people secretly and quietly hoping this crime really continues, you know? No. Goodness. I had to get out.
Good for you. I saw Derek Ramsabush yesterday. We had a nice convo. Didn't see him in years. What you looking to the heavens for,
I
Paul?
don't know. He want to agree with me, you know, but he just don't want to say it publicly.
No, I can say publicly that the Prime Minister is within his purview to review as the head of the cabinet and the person who is in charge of the AG and other ministers, any law that they want, because the government is who brings laws to Parliament and makes proposals to amend laws. The Prime Minister is not out of his remit to bring laws to Parliament all the time for amendment. If they think the laws are not doing what they're supposed to do, they just abolish preliminary inquiry. So I don't know what the issue is with reviewing laws, procedures, and policies related to the operations of the police service. If, as head of the National Security Council, you feel something is going awry, I would say that publicly. What's wrong with saying that publicly?
No, I was just teasing you because
no, you wanted me to say it publicly.
No, but
so
I'm
I said it
listening.
publicly.
No, you know, people value your opinion a lot, you know, Dr.
Well, there is something terribly awry with the operation of the Trinidad Police Service. Okay? It is not operating effectively. We've had multiple incidents where officers have found themselves in the center of controversial issues, which continue to impact the operations and the public trust and confidence in the police service. The Prime Minister will be irresponsible not to review what is going on.
Thank you.
Am I wrong?
I thought I was
that
in
is
a
not to say
twilight
he
zone
can
listening.
or should interfere in the operations of the police service. But certainly, if he has to, at the cabinet level, at the government level, say if the policies, and the government is responsible for policies through the Ministry of National Security, if the policies are working, because guess who will be held accountable for crime in the country when the buck stops? Who?
And that's exactly my thinking. I'm saying nobody says time for Gideon Dixon to go, time for Gary Griffith to go, time for this one. Nobody says that. They says time for Dr. Rowley to go and time for Fitzgerald Hines to go. That's what people say. So if they're making they might be mama guy, and that's at the end of the day. But my goodness.
Well, I hope they're not mama guying. It's because I don't think the police service is being operated effectively. I think it's a combination of policy issues, management issues, accountability issues, and unchecked corruption. I mean, come on. This is day 4 after that incident on Sunday.
Yes.
Have we heard an official, and I don't know, I have not heard an official communique from Trinidad Police Service. Have you all?
No, I have not heard anything. Richard,
have you?
No.
Day 4, after 2 people are dead and 3 others shot at the gun of an off-duty police officer, and the commissioner doesn't think a press release is warranted or appeasing the media to say, well, we're investigating is warranted. 2 people dead. Whether or not he fired in an appropriate manner or not, no word. No, man.
And the person, the female killed, is the wife. I knew that before, but I didn't say it. But it came on the news last night. The wife of a UNC alderman in the Sawal-Avantil Regional Corporation.
Under very dubious circumstances, not a word from the police leadership. That will be thoroughly investigated. Now 4 investigations, one by the police themselves, one by the National Security Council in some way, 2 by the police service, 3 by the professional standard bureau, and 4 by the police complaints authority. Another word from Christopher Yearwood.
Yeah. But all of a sudden, people are of the opinion that the National Security Council, and by extension the Prime Minister, interfering with the operations of the Commissioner of Police. These people are ridiculous, you know. This place, sorry, you know, it's almost like if we just have to remain as we are.
So let me ask something. When a decision was made to end the tenure of Dwayne Gibbs and Iwatsky and pay them off, that is indifference too.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Well, we know how that.
There we go.
Yeah, we know how that.
Come on. A prime minister who is also head of the National Security Council cannot sit by and watch a critical entity, law enforcement, not performing properly and do nothing. And again, I'm not saying he has the ability to interfere directly. I'll be wrong.
Mm-hmm. But
certainly look at the scenario and within legal measures, assess and find ways to help this entity, whether it be through amended legislation or other legal means or not. Legal means, sorry, to help this entity operate more efficiently.
You would think any sensible person would see it that way. Eh?
And again, I'm stressing not any operations here, because the police have to operate independently, but certainly if the government must, when they decide on a budget for the Trinidad Police Service, government is policy.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he thinks that the government's policy regarding law enforcement and crime fighting is not working. I think the statement said laws, policies, and practices. Wasn't that what the statement said?
I think so. I don't have it in front of me.
Come on. A lot of it ends up being in the political arena, and I understand that.
Yeah, it gets tiring. It gets tiring. I'm telling you, it gets tiring.
That's the environment you're operating in. Good morning to Tesla drivers.
You said that before. What does that mean?
A new analysis of auto accidents using insurance data determined which car brands have the worst drivers, the drivers who had the highest accident rates per thousands, and Tesla drivers came out on top.
Tesla drivers, okay.
I feel that movie having a lot of impact on these things. Have you all seen that Leave the World Behind movie?
Yeah, Leave the World Behind.
Produced by Barack and Michelle Obama, with the worst ending I've ever seen in a movie.
I've read people talking about it, but I haven't been curious enough to find it. And
go watch it. You're going to waste 2 hours of your life.
Oh, gosh.
With a movie that have a whole build-up to world ending and apocalyptic and end the world, and it ends with a little girl watching on TV screen.
Wasn't the world supposed to come down end in 2012 or something so?
1999, 2012, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, the next 5 years from now.
Richard could enlighten us on this world-ending thing.
What? How I could help you with that?
Because you're that type of person.
What 2012?
No, on the end of the world, as we know it.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I don't know how to enlighten you on that. The end of the world. You need to talk to COP28.
Who?
COP28.
You leading the alien delegation trying to be here for 200 years. You must know where you're going. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yes, he has T-shirt this morning. He trying to send a message, on YouTube. Watch him. Like the message on his
I love
T-shirt.
that T-shirt, though. I really love that T-shirt. I went looking for it and I couldn't find it one night. And anyway, who has papers?
I don't have the papers today, so we'll have to do it virtually. We'll have to do it virtually.
Do
it virtually while you grab the papers. Let's say good morning.
6:46. Let me start with the Guardian. December 21st, Massey sends outspoken executive on leave. Woman forgets card at Massey, $2,000 used to buy groceries. Massey in the news. Massey mocked on social media, staff told of bizarre claim. This is the Guardian, and the first 4 stories are on Massey.
Well, Richard has an opinion about that
In
I can
trending.
agree with also.
Yeah,
The
am I
first
wrong?
4 stories are on Massey in GML's Guardian newspapers. And isn't that interesting?
Things that make you go, huh?
Region can boost economic growth by reducing crime. Virtual meetings, popular but events spaces surviving. And those are the main stories in the Guardian.
Well, I could do the you doing any, and I could do the
No, well,
Express.
normally I depend on Steve to send it on the chat, but he didn't send anything this morning.
Okay, but I could do the I did.
Um,
Express.
Uh,
Send it to you. The top story this morning on the Express: Ministry working on fix with first citizens. I'm not so sure what that's about. Well, Christmas 2023 has produced a food card fumble with the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services yesterday, admitting to challenges that are now being handled. So apparently it's working on a fix with first citizens. No Seals down under. That's in the local sports. Hayden Seals will not be touring Australia with the West Indies squad for the 2-test series next month. The Trinidad and Tobago Red Force pizza was left out. The ministry warns of granola bar and applesauce recalls. Quaker Oats granola bars and Wanabana applesauce pouches have been recalled because of salmonella contamination in more than 24 types of cereal bars and granola. Massey launches probe. These are some of the headlines. Annual rental value. Imber clarifies concerns. I know some people were objecting yesterday, especially in what we would like to consider high-end areas, considering the value of the annual rental value.
Federation Park, Richard.
Was it only them? No.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people,
most of the so-called high-end areas in the country.
a lot of people are also objecting in other areas too, because.
But he named Federation Park in particular.
Okay. Massey initiates disciplinary process against executive VP. Rother's Bahia Girl inspires a novella, and trending stories. Incheon threatens legal action. Inmate 75 freed after 36 years for killing wife. I know that was one of the headlines yesterday in the Express. So that's it. In terms of, is this these papers here too?
Let me move to the news.
The main headline, sorry, just now, the main headline on the Express itself today is double murder rocks Tobago. 13 recorded to date on the island. Guard kills guard at Central School. That's the actual headlines as you would if you were to buy newspapers today from the Daily Express. So that's it.
So
let's move now quickly to the news day. Animal activists reconsider fireworks this Christmas season. Relative, horse shooting survivor doing okay. UNC MPs complain about Christmas food card wars. Monina National Security Council cannot review police operations. Griffith, Trinidad and Tobago turning into a police state. Woman assaulted over parking space at Gulf City Mall. Ministry helps low-income household receive water and electricity. Expert NSC review may lower public support for police service. Imber illegal guns may have disappeared from transit sheds. And Imber no OBI in finance bill. Gonzalez no plans to privatize TSTT and AG. JPs can no longer sign warrants for indictable offenses. So those are trending stories in your news day. For today, Express and Guardian, Thursday, the 21st day of December, 2023. Merry Christmas, season's greetings, all that good stuff.
Of course, today, December 21st, is the winter solstice. Shortest day and longest night.
Oh, that's the day, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is the winter solstice.
I'd say good morning, go out to Arno, Nasa Mohammed, Rina Buru Jennings, Sunil Ram Samaru. Good morning. Have a fantastic day yourself. Cheryl Seeley, Beauty Culture. Michael Robinson, Mars versus Venus. That must be for you, Rich. Shuin Ke. Sankofa. Good morning to you. All right. Let's get our morning poll, but let me give you the results of our poll from yesterday. Of course, yesterday we did ask you, do you agree with a complete overhaul of the laws, regulations, and practices surrounding the operations of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service? That was our poll results after this.
This is the season of giving, and you can give the holiday happiness to your loved ones. Send and receive more with the MoneyGram. Share the joy with your loved ones and make Christmas extra special this year. With every MoneyGram transfer, this Christmas you have the chance to win a cash voucher. Share the joy of the season with your loved ones. Visit any MoneyGram agent location or Massey stores nationwide for details. And check our Facebook and Instagram page. This promotion has been approved by the NLCB.
All right. Do you agree with a complete overhaul of the laws, regulations, and practices surrounding the operations of the TTPS? The results are in. 100% said yes.
Well, the only question that comes to mind is the question is whether or not the National Security Council should be involved in renewing the operations of the TTPS.
But that's a similar question that we asked yesterday. 100%
Yes, but
agree.
it's not just a review, it's the National Security Council reviewing, which is a contention Dr. Millian and Guy Griffith both have. Unless you'll have a different question, which I have no problem.
Gideon Dixon from the social welfare. All of them have a problem with it.
And Professor Diaz ran at some level.
He did.
So is that the question we want to go with?
I didn't see or hear his comment. I have no problem with it. I have no pen and paper, so Richard has to write also.
You know, I could write.
All right. Why do you guys put up the poll? 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp at 318-1021. And of course on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. All right, our poll.
UNC called a whole press conference yesterday to talk about food cards. Listen, this place can't get more ridiculous. You know?
Yes, so our poll this morning, do you agree with the National Security Council chaired by the Prime Minister reviewing the laws, regulations, and practices surrounding the operations of the TTPS? That's our poll this morning. It was part of the discussion that we had this morning. So 222-TALK, 222-8255, North Americans toll free at 866-525-1099. People on the web and the app and wherever else you're listening to us or streaming us, you can send your comments via the votes via the comment section on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course you can also do it via WhatsApp at 868-318-1021. So that's 318-1021. Let the voting begin.
Let's also say good morning for the first time to our people who are watching us on Instagram Live.
There's an Instagram Live too? I didn't even know that. I'm out of it, you know. I just do Facebook. I do none of those others.
You just have your little black book and you stick into that. You're right.
Yeah. It's
Instagram Live is new, isn't it, Paul?
It's new. That was saying I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. All right. So Alice,
we're not streaming it only fans and the hobbyists. So
have you ever seen that?
Alice, well, yeah. Sunny says yes. Jaron says yes. Rena Budu Jennings says yes. John Cato says yes. Gregory Bauer says yes. Boya. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. In the words of a Calypso, I can't remember his name. Who's going to guard the guards? The answer is yes.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Before I just answer the poll, my condolences to Charmaine and her entire family on the passing of her mother, Charmaine. We will touch base later. I'm very sad at this time of the year. Anyhow, my answer is an emphatic yes.
All right. Thank you. Adande Pigot. Morning, Adande. Yes. Mars versus. Okay. Julia Espity says yes. Beauty Culture says yes. Right. Do you agree with the National Security Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, reviewing the laws, regulations, and practices surrounding the operations of the TTPS? Yes or no?
15 years now, I was telling all you scrap that TTPS, send home 90% of the men and 10% of the women and start over. At 15 years now, I'm telling all you that, you ain't listening,
And then where you going to live? You can't come out your house after that.
Who? Some people can't come out of the house now. 15 years ago, if you had listened to me, it would have been fixed by now.
Steve, I'm reading 7 o'clock. Let's take a moment to April, who's a bit under the weather. We wish her a speedy recovery.
What did he just say there? Speak English.
Let's say good morning to Avril St. Hill Bab, who is a bit under the weather. We wish her a speedy recovery.
Speedy recovery, Avril. I know you must be all them nice perfumes your husband does be making. That might be what, because that's a sinus issue. Smelling them nice perfumes he's made. He makes some really nice perfumes.
Whenever God calls you home, you should leave your brain to science.
I plan to leave a lot more than the brain. I tell you, you wouldn't need any other tablet after they grind me up and put me in tablet form.
But then how much tablets they'll get out of that?
Yeah?
You might get one dose for somebody.
No, but one will last you a lifetime. Everybody just need one. You don't need one a day or one every time or half hour or whatever. How often all you use it?
Steve?
You see why I'm 2,000 years too early?
Wayne B says yes. Vaughn Drayton says yes. Marcia Rock says yes. All right, we head towards our 7 o'clock major news. Let me just set it up here. You have a minute and a half to vote.
I want to say thank you to Wodemeyer, the Ghanaian young man who came to Trinidad and Tobago and highlighted Trinidad in ways that a lot of people didn't know. He really did a fantastic job highlighting Trinidad and Tobago.
I think so. I agree with that.
Yeah.
The things we take for granted, he found particularly enthralling.
Yeah, he was very positive and, about...
Yeah, he has a nice spirit, typical of Ghanaians,
Yeah, he has a nice spirit.
Yeah, he has. If people have seen his videos, that's how almost all Ghanaians are. Always smiling, happy, positive spirit. They're almost all like that.
They're like Trinis then.
But no, Richard,
they're very much like Trinis, actually. Yes,
they are a lot like Trinis, but we have too much anger here. I haven't detected anger in one single Ghanaian when I went there.
All right, let's grab this call. Good morning.
A pleasant good morning to you, Dudu. My answer is yes, and good morning to the other guys there. I wishing you all the best for the new year. Merry Christmas season greetings. Enjoy.
Good morning, Miss Maloney.
Bye.
Hi, Ms. Maloney. Thank you. Have a good one. Let's see. Jude Khan. Merry Christmas to you, Jude. Josie Richardson says yes. Kelvin Duke says, blessed morning to all. Compliments of the season, same ways. Shuin Kerr says yes. Kelvin Duke says no. Cheryl Henry says yes. And let me just check my WhatsApp here. Okay. All right.
Anan 001 says yes.
All right. There we go. All right. Give me the final results. Let's get into our 7 o'clock major news on this, the 21st of December. Starts right now.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
This is news to 7 a.m. on News Power Digital. First, the headlines. The Board of Mercy Limited has sent Executive Vice President Angelique Pathor-Potter on administrative leave. A religious leader claims there's a culture of lawlessness in TNT. Cruise ship visitors to this country are close to 30,000 so far this season, And the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services Christmas foodcast delay is being rectified. We have details coming up next. This is news to 7 a.m. on News Power Digital. Good morning. The board of Massey Holdings Limited has sent its Executive Vice President of Business Integrity, Angelique Pastor Potter, on administrative leave until January 12, 2024. The reason she's being sent on leave is because of her conduct at the group's 100th annual general meeting, which has been described by the company as appalling. Pastor Potter, who is the group's general counsel at Massey and a shareholder in the company, told the meeting she felt obliged to speak up about significant governance and fiduciary concerns, as detailed in a 13-page document including audio evidence, which had been previously shared to Massey CEO and President Gervais Warner. In a written statement which she read out at the meeting, Pastor Potter said, among other matters, one alarming issue is the so-called Executive Leadership Program Delphi, which was being present in our organization for over a decade. The program involves frequent travel to Fort Myers, Florida, and weekly commitments for over a year at a cost per participant of tens of thousands of US dollars, of which there were 11 participants last year alone. She also outlined what she described as bizarre rituals, including which claimed they could train Massey employees to communicate with the dead, and that attendees can self-heal with white light energy. On Tuesday, Massey's board issued a press statement in which it said it was appalled at Pastor Potter's conduct at the AGM. The statement described her comments as patently untrue and scandalous, and described the conduct of Pastor Potter as appalling. Ransomware group Alfie Black Cat says it's hacked and stolen 500 gigabytes of data from systems of warehouse shopping giant PriceSmart. The company has been listed as a victim of Alfie Black Cat's dark web blog again. It was first listed on November 12th. An enterprise and risk security consultant confirmed this yesterday, saying that Alfie Black Cat stated on its dark web blog, it plans to start attacking pretty much everyone and everything after it was seized by international law enforcement on Tuesday between 7 and 9 a.m. The group said it took back control of its blog around noon that day. A Roman Catholic priest is remaining confident the church can make a positive impact in communities across Trinidad and Tobago. Father Ian Taylor, who is based in Newground, said the culture of lawlessness must be addressed in the country. He cited some of the irresponsible behaviors displayed during the carnival period, which he said even continues at other times of the year. He said in the context of bringing about meaningful change, Father Taylor said groundwork must be done in communities and helping people to stay focused.
Culture that we have is a culture of lawlessness. And I see its origin really in the carnival culture, because the carnival culture permits lawlessness over that carnival weekend. I've said before that people don't get arrested for drunkenness, nakedness, dirty dancing, and a whole lot. They give out condoms in the thousands, and it's bacchanal, and we call it bacchanal. And then we have several imitations of the carnival, like Borough Day and many other blockos that take place. So when you breed a culture of lawlessness, you must expect it to extend into crime as well.
Father Taylor also said issues related to parenting, challenges faced in the school system, respect for one another must be brought into the mix. He made a point while being interviewed on Hard Talk on Power Digital yesterday afternoon.
Other issues, questions of parenting and what's going on in the schools. I've also maintained, since they took out corporal punishment from the schools, all hell has broken loose. And then with regard to parenting, where you have the one parent home, and usually the father is the absent one, then you have young men who are not mentored to be men and respectful of women and that sort of thing. And when you go to the prisons, you hear those stories. The country is breathing a culture of lawlessness, and it is reaping the fruits thereof.
On to other news, about 28,000 cruise ship visitors have arrived in the port of Port-of-Spain since the 23-24 cruise ship season began in October of 2023. Tuesday, 2,600 passengers arrived on the Jewel of the Seas. The MSC Seaside's inaugural visit to Trinidad last Thursday brought 4,234 passengers, the largest contingent to our shores in the current cruise season. According to the May 23 Civil Report of Cruise Ship Visitors to Trinidad, prepared by Tourism Trinidad Limited, cruise ship visitors spend an average of US $50 and crew members US $26 per visit. By these estimates, the monies injected into the economy so far is upward of 1.4 million US dollars. This figure is expected to continue to grow as we welcome 22 more cruise ship calls to the port of Port of Spain this season. Quaker Oats granola bars and Wanabana applesauce pouches are being recalled due to contamination. The record issued by Quaker Oats uses salmonella contamination in more than 24 cereal bars and granola bars. The Health Ministry says salmonella is a dangerous bacterium which can lead to severe illnesses when it enters the bloodstream. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration also issued a recall of applesauce pouches produced by manufacturer Wanabana LLC as a result of elevated lead levels. The FDA, in a statement, identified 3 specific Wanabana products for recall: apple cinnamon fruit puree, Schnucks applesauce pouches, and cinnamon and Wise cinnamon applesauce. Lead is toxic to humans and can affect people of any age or health status. The Ministry of Health will continue to monitor the situation and advise the population as necessary. For more information, you can contact the Office of the Director of Chemistry, Food and Drug Division at 217-4664, extension 13101. The Ministry of Social Development and Family Services has received several calls from members of Parliament relating to the delivery and use of Christmas food cards for 2023. In this regard, First Citizens Bank Limited, the card provider, has been notified of several challenges being experienced and is currently testing solutions to ensure full access is afforded to cardholders throughout the country. Government has no plans to privatize the assets of TSTT.
Not to create couture.
Government has no plans to privatize the assets of TSTT. Confirmation of this from Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzalez. Speaking during matters in the adjournment in the Senate this week, Gonzalez said claims made by opposition Senator Wade Mark on the issue are mischievous. He also said claims from Senator Mark directed at citizens who cannot defend themselves must be resisted.
The rules of the Senate is not to create bacchanal. It is not to create couture. It is not to create janjat. It is not to create all kinds of nonsense to come before this House, Mr. President, and call the names of public officials. I was listening to Senator Mark. You would believe that this motion is about TAT. It is about Mr. Gilbert Peterson. You would believe it is about the acting CEO of TSTT. The rules of Parliament must not be desecrated in this way. Public officials ought not to be desecrated. And
Gonzalez also said there's nothing on government's agenda concerning selling TSTT to a group of private investors.
Senator Mark spoke about 49% shares in cable and wireless, and 9 years the government is not doing anything, not 9 years not saying anything. But that is not the question or the motion that was filed before this House. And the motion reads, the need for the government to confirm or deny any decision to privatize the assets of TSTT to a group of private investors. What did Senator Mark say in support of his own motion? And if he was before the court, no case to answer, failed to put forward a prima facie case.
Earlier, Senator Mark, during his contribution, said he wanted to know if there were plans to downsize TSTT.
First, you brought a cable and wireless former director to be in charge of TSTT. She's no history. You know, brought another fella called some Ken Weston. He's a child of cable and wireless. So people are asking the question, is there a plan to sell out TSTT? Is the government seeking to downsize TSTT eventually to sell it out to Liberty Global?
In news of the region, Jamaica Prime Minister Andrew Holness is encouraging Jamaicans to assist in further strengthening Jamaica's economy through hard work. Speaking during this week's groundbreaking ceremony for the Kingston 2 Apartments development in Bournemouth Gardens, Kingston, Prime Minister Holness said Jamaicans' growth is fueled by individuals with incomes and market consumption. He said, however, this cannot happen without diligent dedication and hard work by persons in the country. International notes now, some of the Americans who were freed by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro government in a U.S. prisoner swap have landed at a U.S. military base in San Antonio, Texas. They were freed on Wednesday in an exchange for U.S. release of an ally to Maduro, Colombian businessman Alex Saab, who was granted clemency by U.S. President Joe Biden and returned to Venezuela on Wednesday. Maduro also agreed to release at least 20 opposition-linked prisoners from prison. U.S. prosecutors had accused Saab of siphoning off some $350 million from Venezuela via the U.S. in a scheme that involved bribing Venezuelan government officials. He denies the charges. A Rwandan doctor who was sentenced by a Paris court on Wednesday to 24 years in prison for his role in the 1994 genocide in his home country. After deliberation lasting 15 hours, Sonsis Mundayema, 68, was found guilty of charges of genocide, crimes against humanity, and participation in a conspiracy to prepare those crimes. He's denied any wrongdoing, and his lawyer said he would appeal the decision. At the time, Moon Yanama was 38 and a gynecologist in Tumba in Rwanda's Southern University District of Butere. And finally, a new analysis of auto accidents and incidents using insurance data to determine which car brands have the worst drivers and found that Tesla drivers had the highest accident rates. The analysis used Quote Wizard by Lending Tree insurance quote data and broke down which auto brands have drivers who were responsible for more accidents, DUIs, and other vehicular incidents. It found Tesla drivers had the highest accident rate with 23.54 accidents per 1,000 drivers from November 14th, 2022 to November 14th, 23. The only other auto brands whose drivers had more than 20 accidents per 1,000 drivers in the analysis were Ram, 22.76, Subaru, 20.9, just 3 brands had fewer than 10 accidents per 1,000, Pontiac, 8.41, Mercury, 8.96, and Saturn, 9.13. The best drivers, according to the report, were driving Mercury, Ram, and Saturn. By a significant margin, BMW drivers were found to have the highest DUI rate with 3.13 per 1,000 drivers. The next closest were Ram, with nearly half that amount at 1.72 drivers per 1,000. To end our 7 a.m. news, here are the headlines once again. Massey Board Limited has sent an executive vice president on administrative leave. A religious leader claims there's a culture of lawlessness in TNT. Cruise ship visitors to this country close to 30,000 for the season so far. And the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services says the Christmas food card delay is being rectified by First Citizens. That is news to 7 a.m. right here in News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 12 noon with headlines at 8 a.m.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right, and quickly, let me just give you your weather forecast for today. 24 degrees at Piaco International Airport, 26 at Crown Point in Tobago. The Met Office says sunny and hazy conditions will be interrupted by partly cloudy intervals with a few light to moderate showers. There's a 20%, which is low chance of the isolated heavy shower and or thunderstorm favoring the afternoon. Hazardous seas alert number 1, yellow level is in effect, and a mild to moderate concentration of Sahara dust is present in our atmosphere. All right. Take a look at what's happening on the highways and the byways. Well, it's beginning to build a little bit. O'Meara Road is a bit sticky this morning. You got traffic again from Tacarigua past McCoy towards Pagia, and then heavier as you head towards St. Augustine. Aranguez Road is busy. El Scoro Road is busy. Nothing out of the west, out of Diego Martin, out of Maribel. We've got nothing. Out in the Southland, I got nothing to tell you about as well. Turuba Link Road, passing the highway, that is a bit sticky this morning. We're heading north under Solo towards Uriah. Nothing. And of course, I will inform you guys as well that, let me just find it here quickly. I just saw it a second ago. Yep. That commencing on the 2nd of January, to be completed by August 24th, there will be the Ministry of Works and Transport wishes to advise the public that there will be a temporary traffic disruption on the Solomon Hochoy Highway. So the same dates I said, 2nd January to 24th August. And this is to slope stabilization and road rehab work. And it is happening from Bagwin Sings and Shoguanas towards Chase Village. All right. So a couple of months of a little traffic. All right. So that's your traffic and that's your weather. Let's get back into the show. Let's see if we have any more votes. I'm checking. I'm Trini in Boston. Good morning to you, Trini in Boston. Slick Money Grip says yes. Checking WhatsApp. Nothing there. That's it. Let's get the results of our poll, gentlemen. And I will
Our poll this morning was: do you agree with the National Security Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, reviewing the laws, regulations, and practices surrounding operations of the TTPS? We had 21 people voting in the allotted time this morning. Of the 21 people voting, 20 of you said yes, you do agree with the National Security Council reviewing laws and regulations and practices surrounding the operations of the TTPS. One person said no, they did not agree with it. But 20 of you said yes. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day through our programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Friday, because the weekend begins tonight, people, at a second after midnight.
A very long weekend at that.
Too. Yeah, it's a nice, wonderful long weekend.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love it. All right. Paul will introduce our guest as we come in here. Let me just call her up.
The guest is on board. The guest is not here yet, so as I can see.
So it's going to be via phone call.
Oh, it's via phone call. Okay. All right.
So who's the guest, Paul? You could do the introduction.
Dr. Marlene Atz.
Oh, okay.
Economist Dr. Marlene Atz.
You know, she's been
As
on
we
the
continue
program.
to look at this year in review. Sometimes we try to do it next week, but most people are unavailable, either out of the country or unavailable as the end of the year draws to a close. Right? So good morning to you.
True, because next week you'll just have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Exactly. Precisely.
All right, so let's say good morning, good on to Dr. Marlene Atz. How are you?
Hi, good morning, and happy Thursday, is it? Compliments of the season to you and to your listeners.
Good morning, Dr. Atz. Merry Christmas, Eagles greetings, many happy returns to you.
And same to you, sir. Same to you. Wish you an enjoyable and peaceful and safe season into 2024.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show this morning.
You're most welcome.
Of course, we are doing the year in review in terms of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. And we had spoken to previous people during the week. We spoke to Vasan Barath, and yesterday we spoke to Mariano Brown. And I must admit, Dr. Atz, that they were pretty, I'd want to say prophets of doom, which is a kind of phrase that people use, but they were pretty clear on the deficiencies in the system, and that the path forward they felt was very challenging into 2024. I mean, if I could summarize it in that kind of way, what's your general overview of how Trinidad and Tobago did this year and the prognosis for 2024?
Yeah. Well, I've not had the opportunity to follow the program during the week, so I don't know what the previous speakers would have said, because it's usually a time where I'm otherwise engaged in the morning, so it's difficult to catch up. I think I mentioned that to Steve when he called me. But yes, it has been a challenge, but I think it's important for us to contextualize. The biggest issue for us in Trinidad and Tobago is our heavy dependence on the oil and gas sector. And the oil and gas sector has not been doing particularly well since about 2015. So 2015 prices got depressed. It impacted on Trinidad and Tobago's revenue streams, etc. And then we kind of fast forward to the COVID years, and we know what happened during that period. So because we're so heavily dependent on one major economic activity, anything that impacts on that particular sector will, of course, have a domino impact on us. And then you add to that. So that's the big picture as far as I'm concerned. Then you add to the other layers of issues that we face. Of course, we're talking about issues like crime, which in another space, when I was asked to do a similar commentary towards the end of the year, I said, unless the best laid plans, and I know the Minister of Finance in his budget presentation for 2024 would have identified a number of plans. Let us not lose sight of the fact that 2024 is a year before we have a general election. So there are lots of things that are probably going to be trying to happen in terms of trying to boost the economy and boost economic growth in the economy. But the best laid plans can easily go awry if we don't address what I call the ubiquitous challenge of crime and what is happening around us. People may have heard about something called the ease of doing business, which is an index that used to be used, compiled by the World Bank. They no longer use it, but I'm saying that crime is really now the source of our unease of doing business. So the best laid plans from the government or from the private sector, those plans can easily go awry moving forward unless we holistically and frontally address the issue of crime and all of its dimensions and try to unpack what is happening in our country in a way to try to address those issues, because we really are not in a good space now as it relates to crime and how it impacts on all aspects of business operations in Trinidad and Tobago and life in Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, but I hear you on the crime issue, but I mean, even from a political point of view, if you look at the issue of having talks, crime talks, and of course the Prime Minister would have named his team, the opposition would have had their position with regard to the Prime Minister being present. The Prime Minister, of course, had an issue with Gary Griffith. The opposition said, well, he's not going to be present. You had all of this toing and froing. You are indicating that it's one of the major issues, if not the major issue, dealing with the synergy of the economy coming together, because it's such a factor that's impacting it on all different levels. But the politicians can't even sit down in the same room to talk about it.
Well, I mean, and that's an unfortunate issue, because but I'm always minded. Many years ago, I was invited to speak. I was invited to make a contribution in the preparation of a budget many years ago. So this could be about 15 years ago or more. And I remember at that time, my contribution was about how we could, and I used some economic models to show how we could roll back the fuel subsidy, because it was not perhaps the best use of the government's resources at that time. And the then Minister of Finance, so I wouldn't name, but we can figure it out. 15 or more years ago, he said to me, he said it's a good idea, Dr. Arts. He said, excellent. He said, good economics. He said, but bad politics. And he said, in my world, politics trumps economics. And I will leave that there. Because sometimes I think the forest and the trees get a little blurred, and certainly my position is, and I maintain that position, that until we address some of those cross-cutting issues, so crime is one of those cross-cutting issues that really impacts on every aspect of our lives. So we can have the best laid plans to have investments, to have foreign investors coming in to help us manage, let's say, to ramp up the energy sector, because one of the things that is challenging us is that there is now low production in the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago. So that, coupled with the volatility of prices in the energy sector, doesn't augur well for us in terms of our revenue streams. But even if we wanted to have investors coming into the country, it means that investors need to feel comfortable coming into the environment, which is, I'm saying the best laid plans that we may have really need to focus on some foundations. We're talking about tourism and, boosting of the tourism sector, I see within recent times conversations around tourists visiting East Port of Spain, etc., etc. Whether it's East Port of Spain, West Port of Spain, wherever the case might be. Once we want to boost tourism and tourist arrivals, we need to create a safe environment for that to occur and for it to be sustainable, because we all know one bad story or one incident involving a tourist could really have a negative impact on the country's image. So I'm saying that for all reasons, and even for us as citizens living in Trinidad and Tobago, it doesn't make for comfortable existence, on a day-to-day basis. Which I think it's one of those pain points that we really need to address with some urgency. And however the leadership of the country chooses to do that, I think we really need to embrace the fact that unless we try to solve this and not simply look at crime as a numbers issue, we probably will not be able to make the kinds of strides and advance in the way that we would like to see our economy growing.
But confidence is always a big part of any economy. And I wonder
I missed the first part of what you said. Yes, of course.
Confidence
Yes.
is always a big part of any economy and
Absolutely.
drives economic activity, even now at the
Absolutely, yes.
consumer level.
Absolutely.
What is your take on how confident Trinidad and this is a very general question I'm asking here in sense of the citizenry. What's your take on how confident the citizenry is in the economy and the future of Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, they say don't ask a question with a question, but I want to ask you to indulge me to being a little rude. Does the average citizen care? Does the average citizen care about issues? I think one of my observations over the years is that people get engaged in conversations around the economy only at budget time and only insofar as whether the budget is going to bring something that impacts on individuals. So there is a concern about tax. There is a concern about whether you're going to increase duties on good A, B, C, D, etc., etc. But I think as a population, the population at large is not fully engaged in what happens in our country. So a conversation around Russia, Ukraine, or Venezuela, Guyana, in terms of something closer to home, I don't know that our population, the majority of our population, embraces how significant these events are for us. So we see Trinidad and Tobago as oil and gas, and I think really the conversations around how oil and gas is impacted by what happens in the rest of the world, I don't think the average person embraces that understanding. So I'm saying that as context for the response to your question around confidence. I think confidence, while it is very important, I think our population equates confidence with who happens to be the government at a particular point in time. So it's really a kind of personal thing as opposed to really connecting all of the constituent parts in the economic space and that fabric that really creates our economy. So what brings confidence to me? So even the conversation around crime, I think that will resonate with the majority of persons. But the volatility of energy prices impacting on how our economy earns revenue and therefore the availability of foreign exchange and the availability of foreign exchange as opposed to how we as consumers consume things, imported goods and services, and how that then puts a strain on foreign exchange supply and potentially on the exchange rate. I don't think that there are many persons in the country who actually either understand these issues or really are engaged. So confidence really, I think, is in terms of the citizens being confident. I think it comes down to a couple of things. Crime, I think, is one of the issues, and those economic measures that have direct impact on an individual. So property tax is something that people are concerned about now, the increase in electricity rates, as it were. But from a holistic perspective, certainly to my mind, and you did say it was a general question, certainly to my mind, I would wish for our population to be a little more engaged, because then we can understand what is happening, then we can ask the questions, then we can advocate for changes in terms of how our leaders engage, and I'm saying leaders in the broader sense because I think really and truly, unless we understand that, then it will not affect the way in which we engage with our leadership at the appropriate time, which is usually around an election.
Dr. Atz, good morning again. You were speaking a while ago about the energy sector and the challenges we face in the energy sector. Some are external and beyond our control, but some are internal in terms of the production level. How do you think the government has handled those internal factors in dealing with the energy sector? We have the Atlantic situation, and of course we have the low gas production. The government has placed a lot of emphasis on the Dragon deal moving forward. What are your thoughts on how the government has dealt with these internal factors?
Well, I must admit I don't have a full appreciation for all of the dynamics of the internal factors. So I admit that because last week, a week before, I was in the company of someone who I consider to be an energy czar in terms of the local landscape, and I really like engaging with him because then I understand one or two things, but the complexity and all of the intersecting spaces I don't admit to understand all of the nuances. But I do know in terms of the Dragon field, again, it comes back to I think one of the points I made originally. We continue to have this heavy dependence on the energy sector, and for the foreseeable future, that is going to be the backbone of our economy. But the conversation has to start to shift from both the leadership but also from the population. We have to find ways to start to nudge that pendulum in the other direction. Coming out of the UN meetings, COP28 recently, the text coming out of that meeting says that there has to be a transition away from all fossil fuels. And, that's a very instructive statement for countries like ours that are so heavily dependent. Has that realization, and I appreciate that is not a transition that can take place overnight for countries that are so heavily dependent, but the conversation has to start and the seed has to be planted. How do we capitalize on the energy resources that we have now, which comes back to your question around the management of the internal factors. So we have to ensure that we can engage all the relevant parties, also have the investment that is required for us to ramp up the activities to increase production at the local level, also being mindful of the exogenous factors, those external factors that are beyond our control. And there are lots of factors that are beyond our control, but certainly internally, the wherewithal to kind of get us to ramp up the activities so that we can leverage and capitalize on the energy resources that we do have. This is outside of any conversation around Dragon Field, getting all of the partners on board, and all of those intricate issues that have to be discussed, detailed, etc., etc., etc. But we really have to do something to capitalize on those resources, because, as I said, if the thing that I think benefits Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the wider geopolitical space is that many other countries, so your Russias, your Saudi Arabias, etc., they're all also dependent on the energy sector. So I think while there may be a commitment to climate change and to reducing the global footprint and, in keeping with the Paris Agreement so that you reduce emissions, etc., etc., there are a number of large players who still benefit from fossil fuels, and that will continue to support Trinidad and Tobago's energy sector. Certainly, I think in the short to medium term, but we need to have those countries that I've mentioned, the Russias and the Saudi Arabias. They have the wherewithal to sustain their economies, even if for some reason, the energy prices plummet. We don't necessarily have that kind of wherewithal. So our conversations have to allow for the realization of whatever revenues we can extract with some urgency from our national energy sector, even as we start the conversations and start planting the seeds that we need to kind of swing the pendulum away from non-renewables into renewables and to other sectors, which is where the conversation around economic diversification becomes even more important. I mean, we've spoken about it for decades. But the
Yes.
conversation around economic diversification and linking that to our human capital, how do we train our people to take on jobs for the future, et cetera, et cetera. So there has to be a very, I think, integrated, holistic conversation moving forward. That begins with the energy sector, because that is our mainstay at this point in time. But certainly, how do we take the population into a different direction? I think that conversation is in dire need of starting and getting some traction.
But there seems to be no, that issue of diversification of the economy is something that we've been hearing since primary and secondary school. And we become adults.
This was a pebble.
Yeah, and we become adults in the Trinidad and Tobago space. And it's still a conversation. That urgency, because in my mind, if it wasn't urgent before, it is 1,000 times more urgent now. And you just don't get this sense, at least to me, I don't get this sense of urgency in looking at the education system, because it also starts there, and starting to hone it into, look, this is what the future of Trinidad and Tobago looks like. This is what the options are. This is where we need to go. This is where we need to innovate in terms of the digital space, in terms of coding.
I absolutely agree with you that the education system is an integral part of that conversation. Who are we educating for, and how do we begin that process? So we have, through the Ministry of Youth Development, I forget all of the things, but my DNS, they started the Youth in Agriculture programs, but that is not sufficient to swing the pendulum. So we have to find sectors. We have to train people to work in sectors that will allow us to earn foreign exchange. Remember, we're trying to move the needle from a sector that has earned billions of dollars of foreign exchange. So we're trying to move that needle into another direction because of global commitments, et cetera, climate change, et cetera. But we need to find ways of earning foreign exchange so that we can sustain the economy. And we need to train our people. We need to understand what are the jobs of the future. We need to start to inculcate some of those, the training in our younger persons. Now, yes, the digital space is important, and many of our young persons they're coming out of the womb being able to navigate themselves, in digital spaces, et cetera. But is it sufficient for them to earn jobs, and are the jobs available locally for them? So it's really, as I said, something that we have to turn our minds to in terms of what is the labor market going to look like in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, which is literally around the corner. And how do we ensure that we have the human capital? How do we ensure that we have the workforce that we need? Otherwise, what is going to happen is that we're going to train people for export. So everybody's going to get their training, and then they're going to leave and go elsewhere where they can find jobs. So it's a number of issues that we have to, and what I like to call a number of simultaneous equations that we have to try and solve. But we have to identify what are those issues that we have to resolve, and start to work on them with some alacrity, because the world is moving on. Conversations are happening that will impact on Trinidad and Tobago's economic and social space, and we have to have the resources to address those issues.
Dr. Abs, there are many who suggest that because of the many of the events, both internal and external, our middle class is under some level of pressure. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the middle class is stable? Is it shrinking? And what is the impact on the overall internal economy?
But I don't know that the last part is an easy part. If we have a middle class and the middle class is shrinking, then it means that it is going to impact on economic activity, because your middle class, I think the middle class has shrunk. The whole issue begins with how do we define that middle class. So long ago, we used to think that people who were teachers, who were in certain jobs, police officers. I mean, this is decades ago. You saw those people were middle class because they had a steady job, they had a government job, they earned a salary. So they were the people who were able to, either support neighborhood parlors, go to the supermarket, employ people, et cetera. what is the middle class in Trinidad and Tobago now, and how do we measure that? I don't know that we have any particular definition of the middle class, but we consider the middle class as somebody who's probably a homeowner, and I don't mean a lavish home, someone who has a reasonably modest home, and they work in a job where they earn a salary at the end of the month, as the case might be. So let us take that, for example, as some kind of definition. I'm not talking about an upper end home, or I'm not talking about an upper end salary. I'm talking about an average salary. So let's say $10,000, $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month. We can say that is your middle class. How many of those people are in the space? And if it is in fact that they are shrinking, it means that it's going to impact on the extent to which people consume, and then that will have a domino effect in terms of what is happening and domestically and economic activity in the country. I would be interested in seeing, for example, the Minister of Finance mentioned either in the last budget or the budget before that the survey of living conditions done by the Central Statistical Office should be completed, I think, by next year. Survey of living condition gives you a sense of what is happening in the country in terms of where people live, how much they spend, the size of their households, average incomes, etc., etc. Survey of living conditions and the household budgetary survey. I'm interested to see those data because you get the sense that certainly some of the information coming out of like the Ministry of Social Development in terms of the number of persons that they have on their registers, you get the sense that there are more people, there is a growing number of persons in the country who depend on government grants, etc., which would suggest that you have more persons at the lower end of the scale in terms of persons with access. So I'm saying all of that to say that suggests to me that your middle class is shrinking, which will have an implication for what happens in terms of economic activity, domestic economic activity, persons' ability to spend, etc. Now, there are all of these comments. So I think last weekend you saw business person saying that consumer spending has been slow for the Christmas season, etc. Now, that could be a timing issue because I think public sector workers only got paid or will be paid this week. So you might see some kind of increase in economic in activity in terms of people shopping, etc., etc. So there are all of these what I call windscreen indicators, but it would be useful, as I said, to look at when the household budgetary survey and the survey of living conditions come out to see what the actual data says. But there is, I said, a sense that the middle class, as we conjure up a middle class, that the middle class is shrinking, and that has implications for what happens domestically in terms of people spending, and the extent to which they're spending then causes a multiplier effect in the economy in terms of domestic economic activity.
And your thoughts on the non-energy manufacturing sector? There's been some growth, some say not enough growth, as one of the means of diversification.
Yes, the central bank data suggests that there has been some growth coming out of the non-energy sector, but the question is whether that is sustainable, and that is of course linked to the ability to get foreign exchange, chicken and egg. So while they earn foreign exchange, the question of whether or not they actually get the foreign exchange required to allow them to conduct their business. So some of these, the manufacturers depend on imported inputs, and you need the foreign exchange for that. And then even on the question of the manufacturing sector, there also have been relatedly conversations around the SME sector. And a point that I always like once I have the opportunity to make is that not all SMEs are created equally. So you have those micro entrepreneurs, the ones who might be employing one or two or three persons, who rely very heavily on imported goods or rely to some extent to having access to credit on their credit cards to buy inputs for their small businesses, and they're challenged in terms of access to foreign exchange. And then you have the larger companies still qualified according to the definitions from the CSO. They still qualify as SMEs, but they employ significantly more persons and they have greater access to foreign exchange to conduct their day-to-day business and to import their inputs as the case might be. So while we would see that there is some increase in some uptick in activity from the non-energy sector, to particularly manufacturing, the issue of foreign exchange availability continues to challenge all sectors. And I'm saying that is also one of those issues that we need to address. And it is linked to what is happening in the energy sector as well, because the energy sector is the primary sector for us to earn foreign exchange. So it's a number of interconnected issues that we need to look at in terms of how do we create the competitive advantage to allow our exports to be more competitive, and we can earn foreign exchange from the non-energy sector. But in those cases, we also need foreign exchange to help us import inputs that are required for the manufacturing sector. So it's yes, there's been some uptick in terms of activity in the non-energy sector coming out of manufacturing, but we have to look at what will be the factors that will allow that to be sustained. And foreign exchange is one of those issues. The impact of crime on business, and crime, as I said, also in terms of the cost of doing business, so that, if you have to hire more security, etc., it impacts on your bottom line, and then
Speaking of
increases.
business, I don't know if you care to comment, but the recent controversy coming out of the Master Group AGM in Miami, and if you think, because there have been a lot of memes created, a lot of focus has been placed on the Vice President's comments, and the subsequent, we getting information this morning that she's been suspended, or she's been sent an administrative leave, that may be accurate, and an investigation is started. Do you think this will affect Massey stocks and Massey business in any way?
I don't know sufficient of the issues except what has been shared on some social media platforms and what persons would have sent to me. But I don't think that the Massey stock is going to be significantly affected, because the group is larger than simply Massey stores. It's a pretty diversified portfolio of operations. But as I said, I don't know sufficient of the issues to know the details and to be able to provide a comment on whether I think the stocks will go up or go down. And even if that is the case, it would be, it might well be temporary. But it's not something that I think I have sufficient information on to make a comment at this time.
And what if that forex issue you referenced earlier on, and its impact or its ongoing impact on businesses and their ability to, one, in the manufacturing side, purchase inputs, and two, on the retail side, its ability to sustain businesses? How much is that affecting the domestic economy?
You only have to listen to, any businessman. If you called any business person now, they would tell you that it is a significant. I think there are two things that are challenging businesses in Trinidad and Tobago right now: crime and the availability of foreign exchange. And unless we change the conversations, and the forex thing for me is a little. We need to unravel and unpack that forex issue. Some business persons demand foreign exchange so that they can simply bring in foreign goods and sell them at, and make a profit, and then the cycle starts all over again. And that is one business model. And then there is another business model that says you're importing inputs, you're employing persons, and you're creating employment and you're creating economic activity. And you can kind of go along a spectrum in terms of the value added of the different businesses. So yes, you're demanding foreign exchange. Yes, they're all demanding foreign exchange. But the impact of the business is different. Some are employing persons, some are simply buying and selling so that they can make a profit, because they're buying fashionable things, phones, whatever the case might be, and selling it to people. And at Christmas time, everybody needs to have a new phone or whatever. And I think in terms of how we look at allocations of foreign exchange, a couple of things I want to say. One, in terms of how we look at the allocations of foreign exchange, I think we need to do a better job of understanding the impact of different businesses on economic activity. So to my mind, if you're creating employment, or if there is value added from your activity, and when I say creating employment, not one or two, not simply one or two persons, and while that is helpful, there are some businesses that are actually employing 10, 12, 20 people because of how they operate. And I think that has to factoring into the allocation of foreign exchange. But so really the value proposition and how the use of scarce U.S. resources helps the economy and helps economic activity. So that's one thing. The other thing is that the longer we take to address the foreign exchange challenge, the more we're creating the conditions for a black market, a thriving black market in Trinidad and Tobago. So what happens when you create the black market is that persons who might be earning foreign exchange or who might have foreign exchange to sell will decide not to put it into the system. So they will decide not to deposit it into banks, as the case might be, and they will simply sell it on the black market. So if you want 10,000 US, I have 10,000 US to sell, but I sell it at 9 to 1. And I give you any amount of US. So the more that we have these market distortions, where we have an unabated demand for foreign exchange and limited supply, because again, the supply comes from our ability to earn foreign exchange on the export market, and our primary export is the energy sector. So we have unabated demand, limited supply that we have to manage. It means that we're creating the conditions for persons to operate outside of the market. So they're not going to deposit their US into the bank, so the financial institutions. They're simply going to keep them and sell them to the highest bidder. So we know that those things are happening. And I think it's those series of issues. The other thing that I don't know if persons are aware, the central bank, one of the things that the central bank does is that it intervenes into the market periodically to put foreign exchange into the market to make it available, but is also to maintain the exchange rate so that our exchange rate doesn't depreciate too significantly. Because if the exchange rate goes too high, it depreciates. If it goes too high, it means that the cost of all of the goods that we're importing, medication, etc., necessary goods that we have to import, those costs automatically increase. And we really don't want to lay on top of everything else even higher food prices because of a depreciation. So the central bank draws down on reserves and they put more money into the system, more US dollars into the system to meet the demand so that you kind of maintain an exchange rate. So again, it really is incumbent on us to try and resolve these issues. And one conversation, of course, has been an official depreciation of the currency, which the Minister of Finance has not done, and he's committed to not doing that because, of course, what happens is that the cost of living then goes up. So your medication, always see that medication, etc., all of those things, the price automatically increases once you depreciate the currency. So it's something that we have to look at. On one side, one thing is you depreciate the exchange rate so that you now have a clear recognition that it is going to be more expensive for us to access US dollars, for example. But it also sends a signal to consumers because everything that we consume, primarily everything that we consume in Trinidad and Tobago, is imported. So a lot of shopping is going to take place over the next couple of days.
Well, with that said, has there been a definitive disaggregation of who and what is consuming the U.S.? Mariana Brown told us yesterday the energy sector is the greatest consumer of U.S. dollars of forex. The Minister of Finance told us a couple of months ago that the shortage is being driven by several factors, inclusive of increases in online buying. Has there been a full disclosure and documentation of where the forex demand is coming from?
There are data available on, and one of the I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago, but that was in terms of demand for 20,000 and up. So yes, so you do have that. Yes, the energy sector does demand a lot of foreign exchange. So we import for the energy sector, and it takes a lot of that. Online banking, the point and click, but there is, one of the conversations that I think would be interesting for the country to hear about is how much has been collected in terms of the online taxes. You will recall that to kind of control the extent to which persons were purchasing online, the Minister of Finance introduced, and I think it's a 7% online tax. It would be interesting to hear what has happened in terms of how much revenue has been collected and whether or not that has, in fact, served as a deterrent to online banking. Now, I know recently banks reduced the amount that you were able to use in terms of your credit card. So that is going to stymie the enthusiasm to do too much online shopping. But yes, the energy sector does in fact consume a lot. And as I said,
But it also has an impact on some small and micro-sized businesses.
And that is why I'm saying, that is why my point a couple of minutes ago, we need to be able to disaggregate, because we can't use a broad brush, because there are some micro entrepreneurs who, because of the volatility of availability of goods for their small businesses, and they have very, legitimate small businesses, they use their credit cards and they import some inputs that they need. So I know some people in the pastel making business, for example, they've had to import presses and stuff because their business is growing, they're employing persons, etc. So it's cheaper for them, their labels, etc. It's cheaper for them to buy their labels, because even if you try to bring it in, or try to think, suppliers in Trinidad will tell you that there are the clearance at the ports, etc., is limiting their ability to get access to the goods that they've imported. So there are a number of things. We can't simply look at one issue and say, well, it's online shopping that's causing this. Online shopping is occurring. Some small businesses, as you correctly said, are buying online and bringing it in through their skyboxes, as the case might be, depending on the quantity, so that they can have easy access, so that they can conduct their businesses and they can continue to employ persons. Because if you go through some of the other channels, larger suppliers will tell you that, things are they're still waiting for stuff to clear, for goods to clear. Meanwhile, businesses are suffering. So there has to be looking at all of the issues, we have to kind of try to resolve them, as I said, the simultaneous set of equations, if we are in fact to deal with these things. But looking at the foreign exchange issue as simply online shopping or whatever the case might be, I think it loses sight of some of the nuances that are causing people to shop online.
Dr. Arts, you had previously talked about the valuation, and I'm wondering, I know sometime earlier this year, I can't remember which economist it was or which columnist it was, suggested looking at dollarization or currency substitution. What's your take on that in terms of substituting the Trinidad and Tobago dollar to the US dollar, like some countries would have done? What's your take on that?
There is that conversation that we can simply, there is a view that we should simply switch our currency out to the US dollar, but how is that going to impact on our balance of payments? I mean, we do import everything and we have to settle our bills in US currency, in hard currency, but that is not something that can be done overnight. You have to look at all of the implications for the domestic market. There is a learning curve that comes with that. So it is a conversation that some economists kind of say, let's move away from this. And some countries have, in fact, moved away from their domestic currencies. But again, one, because we're also part of the CARICOM region, and there would be implications in terms of how we conduct business with our CARICOM partners. But it is a conversation that requires a lot more thought in terms of what would be the implications for a country like Trinidad and Tobago, given where we are situated, and given that we're we're a relatively small country. It's 1.4 million persons. Do we have enough going on in terms of our trade and economic activities that will allow us to realize the benefits of that dollarization and moving towards a U.S. currency. So it's really not a simple conversation about simply switching out all the TT dollars to U.S. dollars. It's really ensuring that we have the backing of having that hard currency to support all of the economic activities that we have to undertake.
Final and controversial question. Our food import bill went from 5 billion to just over 7 billion in the last 7 years. How much of this is as a result of a business model that is capitalizing on our developed palates at the expense of the agricultural sector?
That's a rhetorical question. It's not controversial. Because, you know, it is what it is. And not to age myself, but I'm sure you remember there was a time you knew it was Christmas when you started to see apples and grapes and pears on Independence Square and the stalls going up, and you started to see them in the supermarkets. I don't want to sound trite, but we have developed a taste for things that we don't consume, and we consume things that we don't produce. And that is the basis for the crisis that we're facing now. It's a regional crisis, but I think more so in Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of our appetite for consuming foreign goods and services has been linked to the energy sector, believe it or not, because the energy sector is what allows us to earn foreign exchange to pay for those things that we import. So again, coming back to the original point, if the energy sector is not as buoyant as it used to be, and we're not earning the kinds of foreign exchange that we used to earn from the energy sector, it means that some things have to give. And what has happened is that we've not surrendered anything. We've continued, as I said, our demand for foreign exchange has continued unabated, including our demand for imported food. So I remember a colleague of mine who's active in the NGO movement giving me a story that she was engaging with some school children, some kindergarten children, and she was asking them what's their favorite local fruit. And of course, you know, their favorite local fruit was apples. And it speaks to how we have developed our tastes and how younger generations are developing tastes for things that are foreign. And you see it all around. I mean, the conversations, I think, are confusing. They're confusing to me because we talk about limited foreign exchange, but every day we see our compatriots consuming foreign goods and services, but we also see the government granting licenses for more and more foreign businesses to operate in Trinidad and Tobago. And foreign businesses operating in Trinidad and Tobago, even though you might pay them in local currency, because they're foreign businesses, their profits are repatriated in US dollars. So there has to be a consistency in terms of how we, A, diagnose the problem in terms of the foreign exchange, and also B, how we address the problem with respect to foreign exchange. So there has to be some consistency. And I think what has been happening is that we're not consistent in terms of how we're diagnosing, and also B, and also in terms of how we're prescribing solutions to address the foreign exchange crisis. Because on the one hand, we're talking about an increasing food import bill, but on the other hand, we are in fact allowing more foreign-based companies to operate in Trinidad and Tobago for food. You know, so food and beverage companies to operate in Trinidad and Tobago. So
is that part of the politics beats economics paradigm you referenced earlier on?
I wouldn't know because I don't grant those licenses. But from the economic side, it seems to be inconsistent, and we have to address those inconsistencies because, you know, really and truly, at the end of the day, if the energy sector is our main foreign exchange earning sector, and, you know, all of our leaders, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, continue to speak about the challenges that we're facing in the energy sector, then it means that we have to deal with the consequences of that recognition that there is a shortage of foreign exchange earning potential in Trinidad and Tobago until until something changes in terms of our energy landscape and we can earn more foreign exchange, or in terms of our economic landscape and we can earn more foreign exchange. But if we continue to fuel the consumption of foreign goods and services, then it means that we're going to continue to have the challenge that we're facing right now. So it could well be that politics trumps economics, but as I said, I'm not a politician, but it does seem to be inconsistent. And I think some consistency in terms of how we diagnose and how we address the challenge, some consistency is required. Otherwise, the population will continue to think that, money ain't no problem and foreign exchange ain't no problem. So that when we push our trolleys in spaces and we fill our trolleys with foreign goods and services, with foreign goods, sorry, even though we whip out blue bills and pay for it, again, I think there is not the connection that the blue bills that you're paying really is your quota of foreign exchange that you would have used at the bank, because your trolley is full of imported goods, goodies for consumption.
I like how you said push your trolleys in spaces and not spaces lit with candles and blue. So, Dr. Atz, thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. We appreciate your time. I couldn't resist.
Thank you, and the same to you and yours and to all of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's have a safe, enjoyable, peaceful Christmas, and let's move into 2024 full of renewed hope.
Go and light your candle and pull out your cocaine brew.
Have a good one. Take care.
Same to you, Dr. Atz. Very happy.
All the best to you. Thank you.
Same to you. You're most
All right.
welcome.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right. Of course, that was Dr. Marlene Atz.
I couldn't resist that one in the end there. Oh my God.
You're just wicked.
Y'all have a great day. Be safe. Merry Christmas. And a wonderful New Year. Yes, we still have one more day to go tomorrow. So we'll be here tomorrow, God willing, bright and early.
All right, so the weekend begins tonight. People at the second after midnight. Have a great day, whatever you do. Enjoy the season. Please enjoy it. Have a great time, whatever you do. Smiling and laughing is absolutely better for your health than stress and worry.
All right, guys. Start with you all tomorrow morning. Pretty much